I'm not going to use the carpool lane by myself because I don't want to. Well, that's the difference between you and me. All right, goodbye.
Hey, Daddy, you want a date with Mama?
Get in the car.
So, hi, I'm Susie Essman.
And I'm Jeff Garlin, one of America's top teens.
And we are doing the history of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and we're on season 4, episode 6, The Carpool Lane. Again, a classic.
Yes. Yes.
You know, not usually, but frequently, every season there's at least one classic. Some seasons have more than one. This one has more than one.
Right. The last one is considered by a lot of people the
five wood and the carpool lane.
Yeah.
And
but this is the carpool lane, which is great.
This is the carpool lane, and you and Larry are in our garage, I believe.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful Sunday, and Larry says we should be golfing. We're not golfing because, of course, previous to this, he has been kicked out of the club.
Right.
And then you ask him, how do you work a glue gun?
Yeah. And then he says appropriately, how do I fucking know how to work a glue gun? Yes.
And
by the way, what I love is we don't need to establish what the hell I'm working on.
No,
yeah.
It's meaningless.
Yeah.
Of course, I know how to use a glue gun because how else do I get the things on the sweatshirts?
Yeah, the
bedazzles.
The bedazzles.
And then you discuss the interview at Beverly Park, and the interviews went well. And Larry says, I really think they took a shine to me, and he doesn't know what to do with himself without golf.
Ugh.
He's just lost. And he wants to go to the Dodger game tomorrow night, but can't get tickets. And then you mention that Marty Funkhauser has 2 season tickets, and he's probably not going since his father just died. The tickets are going to waste.
Mm-hmm.
What to do? Is it weird to ask Marty? I think it is. What do you think?
Of course it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the tickets are going to waste. It doesn't hurt to ask. And then you point out that every Sunday, Marty has breakfast at Nat's or Nate's, and it can't hurt to run into him. So the two of you go to Nate's, and you see Marty in a booth on the phone in the back, and he runs into you, and he says, I eat here all the time.
Well, by the way, we changed the name, by the way, of the delicatessen, which I don't understand because we always say in terms of an establishment, this was back in a time where we never said that nothing had its right name as opposed to later on. And this is Langer's downtown that we filmed, which is the best pastrami. And may I also say his daughter opened her own deli on Sunset Boulevard, and the pastrami's might be even as good. I don't know.
Never been there.
Well, Daughter's Deli, Sunset. You stay there sometimes, not at Daughter's Deli.
Yes, I do.
Nearby. Yeah. But I recommend it highly to all our listeners. Daughter's Deli.
I'm not a pastrami lover, but, you know.
Well, by the way, they have great tuna salad, great egg salad. You want
whitefish salad? I like a good whitefish salad. They have whitefish
knish, a good knish. They got it all. Yeah.
But you just call it Daughter's Deli? That's the name of it?
The name of it is Daughter's Deli, yes.
Oh, I've seen that actually.
Yeah, in Sunset, yeah. Not far from the Comedy Store.
So,
boy, I just gave them some big
some
time.
Good plugs, yes, because I frequently, when I'm in Hollywood, I stay at the London, which is right there.
Why are you saying that?
Because you said I frequently stay there.
But I didn't say what. I was once in New York, and I was on the show, whatever the Kelly and Regis or whatever it was, and the guest host was Jeff Probst, Probst.
From Survivor.
He was, right, and he was the host, and I was the guest with, I don't remember, it could have been Kathy Lee. I don't remember. Anyhow, the point being is, he says, we're staying at the same hotel. And I said, yeah. He goes, the Parker Meridian. He says on a live show that we're staying at the Parker Meridian. And then I changed my name, which I still use to this day. Every time I stay in a hotel, I go by
Don't tell anybody.
Barnaby Jones. All right, keep going.
Yes. Okay, and Larry, so you run into Marty, and Larry then apologizes about the 5 wood to Marty. And And then Marty says,
You guys get into Beverly Park?
Not yet.
Well, we interviewed. Yeah. We're waiting to hear.
Waiting to hear.
Good luck.
Great course.
Yeah.
Have you played it?
No, I'm a Jew.
Funny. Oh, hey, who do you like in the Dodger game tomorrow night?
Oh, it's going to be tough. It should be a great game.
Yeah.
Sold out.
It's a shame about your dad and all because you probably, you're just not up for going to a game, I guess, huh?
No, I decided I'm going to go.
No kidding.
Good for you.
He would have wanted me to go.
I think that's true. Don't you?
He would have, most certainly.
Hey, you know what? If you're a little lonely, you need a little companionship at the game, if you want me to keep you company, I'd be happy to do it.
I don't have a seat for you.
What about your dad's seat?
It's spoken for.
He says he is going to the Dodger game because his dad would have wanted it. And Larry says, well, you need companionship. I'm happy to go with you. And he says, no. Dad's seat is spoken for.
But by the
seats
way,
are at the third base field level, so they're very good seats.
They're very good seats. But the idea that Larry said companionship, if you need some companionship, too good.
Companionship.
Yeah.
And Larry says, if you hear of anything about, the extra tickets, let me know. And then Larry asks him for the golf tip. We're still on the weatherman's golf tip. 2 episodes later, he still wants the golf tip. Fine, he won't give him the golf tip. Larry is then home, and Nat is at his house, and Larry is wearing his old Seinfeld jacket because he's on his way to jury duty, and he makes the assumption that they don't like to they don't like to pick people for jury duty who are in showbiz. I've never heard of that, but whatever. So that's why he's going to wear his Seinfeld jacket to jury duty so he can get out of jury duty.
By the way, the greatest excuse that I ever saw for jury duty, I was on a federal court jury duty, in South Florida. And when they were selecting, and I got to say, I think I was 22, 24. I wanted to be selected and experience that. And the guy ahead of me, when they were going around, interviewing them, said, Your Honor, I hate all denominations, including my own. That is verbatim.
And that was not Larry David.
Yeah, and he was excused right away. Yeah.
All right. Well, Larry says he would serve, but only if they make him the foreman. If he's not the foreman, he doesn't want to serve. And
do you know I've been a foreman before? I've been a foreman.
On a jury? Yeah. What was it?
There was a guy who supposedly broke into someone's house and robbed them. It was that simple. And he was found not guilty.
Really?
Yeah.
I was on a jury once, and
What'd you wear? Cotton? A lot of comfortable cotton?
A lot of linen.
Okay.
And it was summer in New York, and it was a reckless endangerment charge, and it was quite fascinating.
What is reckless endangerment?
The guy shot a gun off in public. He didn't shoot anybody.
Oh, so it's dangerous and it's reckless.
It's reckless endangerment.
Reckless endangerment. That's the appropriate name.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be reckless excitement.
And then Cheryl, turns out, got him tickets to the Dodger game. But Larry complains they're high up. And but then he says he'll take them.
He's making a joke.
And he's going to go with you, with Jeff.
Yeah. No, he asks her, and she knows damn well he doesn't mean it. She says, no, go with Jeff.
Go with Jeff. And Nat is at this point doing a TV Guide crossword puzzle, which is the easiest puzzle ever in the history of mankind.
Yep.
But he complains he's having so much trouble he could barely see it because of the pressure in his glaucoma. He's having a very difficult time. And Larry begs him, let me get you some marijuana. And Nat says, do I look like a beatnik? I love that line. That's so
Well, by the way, Shelley came up as a comedian and became successful during the age of beatniks.
Correct.
Yeah.
I know, it was
late
totally
50s,
appropriate
early
for
60s.
him to say it.
Yeah.
And beatniks at that time were weed heads, were smoking weed.
Yeah.
They
with
called
berets. And they were found in poetry places.
And they were playing bongos.
Yeah. Yes.
And Larry says, but if I get it, will you do it?
Do you know I was once asked to be in, what's the song You Ought to Know? What's her name? Alanis Morissette.
Oh, yeah. She was on the show.
Anyhow, Alanis Morissette, we talked about it. She was on the show, and she was, I'll say, a strong acquaintance of mine. We weren't friends. But I remember I was invited numerous times to be at a drum circle, either at her house or the beach. And I burst out laughing. And I'm like, the day I'm in a drum circle, just someone come up and shoot me.
I think a drum circle sounds fun. I've never been in one, but
that's why
sounds fun.
I've witnessed a drum circle. And the other name for a drum circle is kill me. Because that's what I would say when I would watch
I will never invite you to a drum circle, Jeff.
And no offense, Alanis Morissette, who's a lovely person, but I didn't want to be involved in her drum circles.
And then we are, and I don't think she holds it against you. And then we are at the voir dire section of the jury, which is when they're questioning the jurors.
Have you ever been the victim of a serious crime?
My cousin once stole an almond joy from me. It was upsetting at the time, but...
I don't think that would be considered a serious crime. Is there any reason you can think of that you'd not be able to decide this case in a fair and impartial manner?
I don't know if I could be impartial, Mr. Condon, given that the defendant is a Negro.
My brother once stole my almond joy.
And it hurt back then.
Yeah. And then he says, I don't know if I could be impartial given that the defendant is a Negro.
Just the word Negro, of course. And obviously playing the Negro or the black.
Is Jonathan Harris.
Is Jonathan Harris, who was our AD for so many years.
Many, many years. And I love him and miss him.
Yeah.
And we know that Larry is just using that term to get out of jury duty. That's quite obvious. And then he leaves the courtroom. He's in downtown LA and he sees a drug dealer who is played by Jorge Garcia.
By the way, if I'm not mistaken, Jorge's first job.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, and he popped from, I know for a fact, because J.J. Abrams is my pal, that he was hired. One of the reasons they were interested in was Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how they noticed him.
I like when people get work.
Yes, well, a lot of people that happens to on the show, including Kim Whitley from this episode. She worked a ton after.
Well, she was so great in this episode.
What I find fascinating, and it's very subtle, he's wearing in this scene, Jorge, a Hawaiian shirt, a T-shirt that's Hawaiian. Little did you know how many years he would spend in Hawaii.
He'd be spending in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Larry notices a little transaction between Jorge and another person, and he goes over and he says, I couldn't help notice the transaction.
What exactly were you thinking of?
A little weed going, you know? Some weed.
Yeah, I got it, yeah.
And he's clearly not good at this and uncomfortable at it.
By the way,
weed.
And also the dude knows I'm going to score here.
Yeah, because he's going to charge him way more than somebody who's knowledgeable.
Yeah.
He tells him he can get an ounce of hydroponic for $500, an ounce of swag for $200, and the drugs will sell themselves. They have an exchange 1, 2, 3. It goes the wrong way. It's all awkward and horrible. And then he scores the weed. He gets the swag for $200, and he's on his way to the game, and he's on the phone. Jeff can't go to the game, stuck in traffic. And Larry complains he's stuck in traffic. Why were you not able to go to the game? I don't remember, Jeff.
It doesn't matter. I told him I couldn't go to the game. I don't even know. By the way, to be honest, it wouldn't make sense to even justify it in the scene. I just can't make it.
I don't have anything here.
Yeah.
So Larry's on the phone. He's telling you, I'm stuck in traffic. The only thing moving is the carpool lane. Bingo, he's approached at the window by Kim Whitley. Want a date with Mama? And then he looks at the traffic and he gets a light bulb moment. And he says, just get in the car to her. And she tells him her name is Monina. Mm-hmm. And he says he's not interested in sex. He just wants her to go to Dodger Stadium.
See, actually, I'm not really interested in any sex per se.
What, you one of them freaky motherfuckers or something?
To tell you the truth, what I'd really like to do is I want to go to Dodger Stadium, and I want to go to the game, and I'll pay you for your time. Maybe, 5 hours it'll be.
You just want me to sit in the car?
Just sit in the car. That's all you have to do.
Oh, you a crazy son of a bitch. All right, $1,000.
$1,000? What, are you kidding me?
That's
$200 an hour?
Exactly. I can get 4 blowjobs An hour.
4 blowjobs in an hour?
Oh, yes, I'm good, okay?
Hey, I drove a cab. I used to drive around for 2 hours. I couldn't get a fare. You telling me you're getting 4 blowjobs in an hour?
Yes, honey, you done picked up the best. Honey, I got a red snapper that talks to you.
You know what it's saying? I'm charging way too much.
$7.50 and take me to the game. I'm going to the game then.
I'll pay you for your time. And
she's
she wants
really
$1,000.
But by the way, she's very confused by this as well. She should be.
Well, of course she is.
Yeah.
And she wants $1,000. She could give 4 blowjobs in an hour.
I didn't even pay attention to that line.
Yeah.
That's great.
4 blowjobs in an hour. Then something about red snapper I wrote that I don't remember what that was either.
Yeah.
But they finally settle on $7.50. And she says $7.50 and you could take me to the game. And he says, I only have 1 ticket. But that's bullshit. And then he goes into this whole thing about Henry Clay and compromise.
Well, no. He says he only has 1 ticket because he doesn't want to take her to the game.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you're saying it's bullshit. I thought you were saying it's bullshit that he has 1 ticket. Never mind.
No, he has 2 tickets. We already know you're not going.
Right.
And he describes compromise as when both parties are dissatisfied. That's what we have here.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're zipping along.
Which, by the way, is a brilliant line. I mean,
yes,
in life.
That's why I wrote
In life.
Compromise is when both parties are dissatisfied.
I got to write that down again. Compromise. Yeah. Okay, you can
Henry
continue.
Clay. It's attributed to Henry Clay.
Oh, it's not a Larry quote.
No.
Oh, I thought it was a Larry quote. Is when.
Then we're zipping along.
Hold on. Let me write this down. Is when 2 people are unsatisfied.
Compromise is when both parties are dissatisfied.
That's a brilliant quote. Okay, go.
And then they're zipping along in the carpool lane, no traffic, and she pulls out 2 tickets that she finds. And she's like, I'm going to the game or I'll call my pimp. To which Larry has to give in because he does not want to deal with her pimp.
By the way, who does?
She wants 2.
Does anyone want a good... By the way, there's nothing good about a pimp dealing. There's no good, solid... What'd you do today? I had a pimp dealing. You don't like that. It's no good.
I have to say, Jeff, having never had a pimp dealing, I can't comment. Maybe there's a good pimp out there. So they get to Dodger Stadium. Now, question. We've shot several things at Dodger Stadium.
Yes.
Was this the episode where the guy got off out of jail?
Yes, this is the one where he got out of jail.
So let's talk about that first. Let's just get that out of the way. There was a guy who was
accused
in jail.
of murder.
Accused of murder.
Yeah, it's big time.
He was there was an eyewitness that pinned him for the murder, and he claimed that he was not at the scene of the crime. He was at Dodger Stadium at a Dodger game. That exact time the murder was supposed to be happening. And that there was a film crew there filming. The lawyer then went to Larry and the post-production team, and they went through every single frame of the scenes that Larry shot in Dodger Stadium till they found the guy in the background, and it was time-coded, so they knew exactly when he was at Dodger Stadium, and he got acquitted. How lucky for this guy that he wasn't sitting in a different section.
Well, by the way, yeah, I mean, it saved his life. Curb saved someone's life.
It saved his life. So this guy got acquitted, from a murder just by sitting in the background, being seen on tape.
But he wasn't. He was a unwilling extra. He had no idea.
Unwilling extra.
Yeah. And
what a freak fucking thing,
and someone made a short doc about it that's on Netflix. It's been on there for years.
Yeah.
Which I've never seen. But
so then they're at Dodger Stadium. She complains seats are all the way the fuck up. And Larry takes out his binoculars and he sees Marty Funkhauser sitting alone down in the 3rd row. Good seats. And then Monita says,
I know you ain't looking around like you scared somebody gonna recognize you or some shit. You trying to act like you ain't with me?
No, I'm not trying to act like I'm not with you. What are you saying?
I will pull a titty out in this thing. I will pull a titty out.
Don't you dare do that.
I will act like you with me then.
I'm with you. I'm acting like I'm with you.
Okay, cool. That's better like that. I will.
Don't.
And she threatens that she'll pull a titty out if he doesn't act more like him. So Larry puts his arm around her. And then as he has his arm around her, he sees Ken and Jim from Beverly Park Golf Club, the guys that he had the interview with at the end of the last episode, and he sees them seeing him with his arm around this prostitute, Monina. Larry then goes down to Funkhauser, and he says his seats stink. He said, is anybody sitting there? Can I join you? And Marty says, no, it's the memorial seat for my father, which is so bizarre.
Well, by the way, that's something that Bob's a master at, and that is
the deadpan.
Well, no. The illogical as logic. Like he'll say something completely illogical, but present it as this is logic. This makes sense. Don't argue with me.
I also feel, I don't know if you agree with me, but he's not his full Marty Funkhauser yet in these early episodes.
Oh, I think he is.
You say, I think he developed into more of a Marty Funkhauser character later on. Larry goes back to Monina, and the country club guys walk by, and he says to them,
You ever looking for a good blowjob at a reasonable rate? She's your gal.
if you're ever looking for a good blowjob at a reasonable rate, she's your girl.
Well, I love when Larry does this, when he's cornered and he just dives in.
He goes with it.
He goes with it. And by the way, this is one of those episodes with multiple endings. You could have ended there. Completely.
Yes.
You could have ended there. No doubt about it.
But there's so much more. There's so much more. Game is over. They're in the parking lot. You see Marty in his car. Car won't start.
You're not going to believe this, but my car won't start.
Oh, my God. What a shame.
It is. Listen, I've got to pick up someone at the airport. And I know it's on the way. Can you give me a lift, please?
Why don't you ask your father to help you jumpstart the car? Hey, Leo, why don't you give him a push?
And Larry's just going to dig it into him because Marty was an asshole about the memorial seat.
So you're telling me that Bob in this scene isn't full on Marty?
No, I think he became later on. I thought maybe in last episode. I think he gets more. But
by the way, this episode is 100% Marty Funkhauser and Larry David. What I mean by that is they have the exchange. Bob knows he's against it. He apologizes, and Larry talks to the invisible, no one's sitting in the front seat, but he talks to it like it's Larry's dad. And he's like, come on, let me.
Like Marty's dad.
And then Larry gets the idea, you give me the weatherman's golf tip, and I'll take you to the airport.
Correct. But first he says, Larry, Marty says, I have to go help me. I got to go pick somebody up at the airport. And Larry says, why don't you ask your father to help you jumpstart the car?
Yes, which is great. And Bob right away says, let's not get into this. Because he knows that it's a no-win situation.
Yeah, because he was wrong.
He was completely wrong. But he says, I was emotional.
Just give me a ride.
Yeah.
And then he gets in the car. Monina's there. And he gets out of the car. And Larry says, one thing I got to tell you, I'm with a prostitute. And Marty says, my eyes are closed. And Larry says, not for sex, but for the carpool lane. And then Larry says to him, I'll take you, but I want the weatherman's tip.
Oh, it's always quid pro quo. That's why he got out.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I want to tell everybody listening, watching, whatever it is, that the two characters on the show that are very similar to who they are off screen, Bob and Richard Lewis.
Right.
Richard Lewis is more Richard Lewis than he is on the show.
Yeah, we said that last episode, darling.
But Bob is completely even between Marty Funkhauser and Bob Einstein. Like the way, forget everything you know about golf. Forget it. Like, I could see him saying that to me in his backyard. Like, he is exactly like Marty Funkhauser. It's so funny. So funny.
So they get to the airport.
Yeah.
And Larry has to go in, tells Monina, I have to go in to use the bathroom. And then he says to Marty, can you hold my jacket while I'm in the bathroom? See, now this is where it all, the callbacks.
Well, by the way, this is why he wore the jacket early in the show.
place,
It's
of
exactly
course.
what I'm talking about.
The setup.
If you want to use Curb as a mystery, you watch the beginning of the show and go, where could this possibly go? You won't guess because you're not Larry David, but nonetheless, it sets up everything for the end.
So Marty puts on the jacket, and next we know, we hear dogs barking, German shepherds barking, and they're taking Marty away.
It's not my marijuana. I was just holding the jacket. What are you doing? This isn't even my jacket. It doesn't even fit me. Get your hands off of me. Easy. Get that dog away from me.
Marty got arrested because of the marijuana that Larry put in the jacket pocket that he had bought several scenes earlier from Jorge Garcia. And there you go. Marty's arrested. Then he's in the car, back in the car with Monina, and he tells her that they took the marijuana, and Monina's got chronic, which is the best shit in town. That's swag bullshit. She doesn't know what swag is. She's got chronic.
Well, by the way, a comment
she's going to
here.
give him the chronic, and she says, put the chronic on my bill. That shit ain't free.
But by the way, how quickly Larry forgets that his friend has just been arrested. You got to go to the police station. How can I help him? Completely out the window.
I agree. Larry doesn't have enough cash, and she's like, no pussy on layaway. And then he says to her, aren't we coup de la? Now, we know, Jeff, from the episode we did with Chris Williams, that coup de la is meaningless. It doesn't mean anything.
Right. It'd be just something that Chris made up.
That made up when he was Crazy Eyes Killer.
Yeah.
So Larry says, we're going to go to my father's house and get some cash and give him the marijuana. And then she starts complaining. Monina starts saying, that was fucked up seats. And you got me one little ratty ass hot dog, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Then they're at Nat's house. And Nat didn't watch the game because it was too blurry. And he gives him a joint, a reefer, as Nat calls it, that goes along with his beatnik lingo.
Well, by the way, he says beatnik again in about a minute or two. He repeats the word.
And Larry's telling him how to hold it in his lungs. It's not like a cigarette. And then he asks him if he has any cash. And then there's a knock on the door, and it's Monina. She didn't like waiting in the car, and she sees Nat. She's like, "Oh, look at your cute little daddy." And Larry introduces Monina as a friend of Cheryl's. Good thing he's blind. She's a lot of fun. And they smoke. And, LD is stoned. You see LD stoned. Nat is like, this is some good shit. They're yucking it up. The chronic is the schnitzik.
I want to tell you what this is.
What is?
That's good shit. I wonder what it is to smoke bad shit.
We're going to do some ebonics.
Ebonics?
Let's say that this chronic is the shiznick.
This chronic is the shizmic.
The shizmic.
Shizmic.
For shizzle my nizzle.
For shizzle my... That sounds almost Yiddish to me. Yiddish ebonic.
Yeah, you holding on to me.
Look at that. He blew the scene.
And then Larry leaves, and Nat says, he blew the scene. So he's really going through like this whole beatnik lingo. And then Larry is in the bathroom mirror looking at himself stoned, which this scene cracks me up because it just feels so Larry.
Well, by the way, what's funny about this scene, this is like the stare down, which I didn't think was going to be funny, when I first saw it. And of course, it's iconic if you watch the show. When we filmed him, he did a million different things when he was in that bathroom, to the mirror. We shot a lot.
Having a fight with himself.
I remember shooting a lot of that. But I remember thinking to myself, I don't think this is going to be funny.
What are you looking at? You see something? Huh?
What did I do?
What did you do? You know what you did? You do nothing.
If you want me to do something, just tell me. You gotta change the diet. I told you about that. I don't want the red meat. You're eating a red meat. I don't like that. I'm doing the best I can. Go to a doctor. Get yourself a checkup. Colonoscopy. You afraid to get a colonoscopy? What's the matter with you? I'm sorry. Everybody gets it. Get a colonoscopy.
But it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's not just funny. It's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And then we go back out to Nat, and he's all sappy, and he sees better. It's a miracle. And then all of a sudden he could see, and he looks at Monina and he says, "Oh my God, it's a hooker."
Hold on. She's out of the room.
Yeah.
She went in the other room.
She comes back in the room.
And then she comes back in the room and he goes, "Oh my God, a hooker."
It's a hooker, because he could see.
And I that's the end of the episode, right?
No. Then we're in the courthouse.
Oh, right.
You didn't take notes?
No, I did. But because that's a great ending too. We've already passed 2 great endings.
But it's not over yet, folks.
No.
There's more.
And by the way, it's the 3rd great ending. We're approaching.
We're in the courthouse.
And I don't know of
Marty,
any other episode where there's
so
3 concise, great endings.
Well,
I mean,
we'll
they're all 3. Yeah.
So he's in the courthouse with Marty and Cheryl and lawyer and suits and all you have to do, Larry, is tell the truth. And Larry tells how it was his jacket and his grass. And Larry and Marty go back and forth. And then Monina is there because she's clearly was picked up for, prostitution. And she sees Larry. She's like,
"Oh, Mr. Baseball. Mr. O. Monina, $200. You said 5 hours and it was 700. You still owe me $200. I want my 200 Skrilla."
"You still owe me 200. You said 5 hours. It was 7. I want my 200 Skrilla." And Cheryl, so this is assumes that was his anniversary present. Says, "So this is your anniversary present?" Then we go in and we see the judge. And the judge is the same judge that was there for the voir dire for the jury duty. And he puts his arm around Monina, obviously.
No. Hold on. He sees the judge, and then we cut to his arm around...
in front of the judge with his arm around Monina and talking about his father's condition. And that is finally the end.
So here's what I want to say about the 3 great endings. So often, it's usually in modern filmmaking, I'd say the last 10, 15 years, maybe even longer, and it's happened before that. You're watching a movie, and there'll be a logical ending, but they still keep going, and they still keep going.
Yeah,
and you
I
say,
know.
Why didn't they end there, as opposed to 2 other separate endings, which, by the way, completely unnecessary. Whereas here, you have 3 concise, perfect endings, which I wouldn't want to give up any one of them. And I remember watching, because I haven't watched it in so long, where when he says it's a hooker, my memory was that it ended there. And then the next one, my memory was when it ended there. And then finally, I didn't remember what it was with the judge until I saw Larry holding Kim Whitley's character. Because I'd forgotten, because they were all such perfect endings. So right. I'm just saying you don't see that.
So what do you think, Jeff? What do you think makes this a classic?
Well, I think first and foremost, the diamond lane, because people always want to go in the diamond lane. And the idea of picking up a hooker to go with him in the diamond lane, that alone sets it up to be a classic. You throw in the whole festival around it, which is gem. Sometimes I watch an episode, it's like, oh, I didn't really love that scene. Every single thing surrounding that premise, gem.
And it also, I think, it's a very great example of the way the tie-ins of an episode, like what you were saying before. You see the jacket in the first scene, all of that.
Well, here's what I wanted to say. I think I've said this in earlier episodes, or an early episode. I may have repeated, because it's the one. It's the best analogy that I've ever come up with, and I know very few people listening. Although we do have older people who listen. I'm 61, older than me, but Nat Hiken, who did Bilko, You'll Never Get Rich, Bilko, and Car 54, is the only other person that ever wrote like Larry, and he's a big influence on Larry. And that is, on the Tonight Show, there used to be that guy would come out and he'd have dominoes all set up. and he would just click one domino, and in all sorts of directions, it would curve around,
Right.
but it would
beautiful.
end at the same spot at the end.
Right.
And that's how Nat Hiken wrote, and that's how Larry wrote. And it writes. And I've never seen anyone else do it before or after.
And
those
some
two guys.
episodes are better examples than others. I think
But
this is an
one's
excellent one.
a perfect example of that.
Right.
And like I said, it was such a good example of that. You had 3 perfect endings.
Perfect endings.
And you don't often get that. No, this is one of my favorite episodes because of how good it is.
And
It
also,
is so
I think
good.
that Kim Whitley, as guest star in her turn, added so much to that character.
But you don't know that. Like I remember back then, I was only one of 2 or 3 people that read the outlines. Now, past, quite a few seasons, you've read the outlines as they come out. And I remember thinking, what I imagined wasn't nearly as good as what Kim Whitley did. That's my point.
That shows a great actress.
That's exactly.
That
she
that
took
takes
it and
the
ran
part
with it.
and makes something out of it. And
But
she created the character. I mean, what she was given was a hooker who's but she created the whole thing.
And by the way, Jorge, what a subtle, great performance.
Yeah.
I agree. Everyone
I do
along
think,
the way. What?
I do think that one of the keys to this show is how well cast all these little characters are. The Jorge, just one quick little scene.
Well, by the
perfectly
way,
cast.
I have to say that's Larry and that's me. Because I completely agree with him, and I'm on top of it with him that most of the years, because I stopped casting I was not involved with casting once COVID came along.
Well, then we're casting through Zoom. And
yes,
it's
but
different.
also I said to Larry and Jeff Schaefer, the other producer and director, I go, why have another voice via Zoom? I don't get a sense via Zoom of what's going on. So I bowed out.
I also think that we suffered a bit in the Zoom casting. There have been a couple of things that didn't, that wouldn't have happened if it was in person.
By the way, there's nothing like seeing an audition in person. Nothing.
And Larry, so everybody knows, when casting, Larry used to, not anymore because it's all virtual, but he used to do the scene, improvise the scene with people, so he could really get a sense of them.
By the way, starting in I think season 3 or 4, she sat in on the casting. Mm-hmm. So you could conceivably be doing a scene with myself, Larry, Cheryl, and myself, which has to be
so
weird.
So you get
if you
way
dig
better
the show.
You get a better sense.
I know,
of how this
but how
person is gonna work.
intimidating I've never auditioned for something where I'm auditioning with the stars of it, but screen tests and stuff you do. But I want to. There's a story. It was the movie with Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger. I think they met on this, and it was The Married Man or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
I auditioned for it to be one of his pals. Well, the guy who read with me, and knew the stuff, was blowing me off screen in the audition. I'm not going to be here to support you. I'm here to blow you out. He actually ended up getting the part,
That's not good.
No, it's not. He's a nice guy, actually. I ended up working with him later.
You've gotten a lot of good parts, so I'm not that concerned.
You know what that is, that statement? That's a wrap-up statement.
It is a wrap-up statement.
I knew exactly what it was.
Because my battery is about to go, so
I love you,
charger.
And thank you for doing this with me, Susie.
And we'll see you next time.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. It's an honor.
Mwah.